Houston. Let me begin by saying that, number one, I do very little of this type of litigation, so I'm not one of the people you frequently see in the courthouse following a storm loss or a catastrophic occurrence involving the first-party coverage. But I'm here because the issues that are involved in this particular piece of legislation are so far-reaching, and as Senator Whitmire, you were alluding to a moment ago, we have one county, Senator Taylor, that has been a real problem, evidently. I don't have any personal knowledge of that because I was not involved. But this legislation, it's new legislation in the sense that it grants immunity where none has ever existed before. And it doesn't grant immunity, gentlemen, to the to the illegitimate claims. It grants immunity also to the legitimate claims and prevents recovery under the policy. I've heard testimony here today that, well, you get your breach of contract damages. Under this piece of legislation, if you look at page 1, section 541151, it creates a cause of action for essentially unfair business practices, misrepresentations by the carrier to their policyholder. And then you go over to the second page and you look at subsection B, and in subsection B, it defines actual damages. And your actual damages exclude your policy benefits. Now, I know on page 7, in the section back on page 7, there's an attempt to create a cause of action and make the insurance carrier liable for the policyholder's claim. But look at what it says on page 2. Actual damages means an injury independent of the harm resulting from the insurer's denial of policy benefits. The policy benefits wrongfully withheld, as well as any attorney's fees or costs incurred to recover those policy benefits, do not constitute actual damages for purposes of this subchapter. So what you have done in that particular section is you have denied the insured the benefit of their contract. There is no breach of contract liability. My dad was a claim agent for his entire life for the railroad, and I grew up in that environment. And I began in the defense practice representing insurance companies with Fulbright and Jaworski in Houston. I understand what is being alluded to here from a standpoint of unethical conduct and people that are doing things that are inappropriate. But this bill does not only address that, it addresses the legitimate claims of people who don't have routine losses. Routine losses occur when you're in the business of insuring. And I understand what you meant a moment ago when you were talking about routine losses. But they're not routine, as Senator Gallagher pointed out, to the individual who has sustained that loss. Looks like I'm out of time. Did I only get 2 minutes?
No, sir. I gave you the full 30.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike, for being here. Senator Ellis?
Let me just a couple questions. You know, I thought we had a pretty good discussion on this bill when it came up previously, so I don't want to go through all that again, but the issue was people were being granted immunity. And so my question is, in this bill, do we back away from that, or in this substitute, are we giving more parties immunity?
We're giving more parties immunity, and I understood, Senator Taylor, from our last hearing what you were trying to get to, and that was adjusters being wrongfully dragged into litigation, public adjusters essentially soliciting cases. This bill gives immunity in circumstances in which the benefits were wrongfully withheld from the insurer, not anything that these gentlemen have been addressing here today. A circumstance in which somebody's been cheated by the carrier. And it does happen. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it does happen, notwithstanding the best efforts that are put forth by management. And in this circumstance, you're giving those people absolute total immunity, and that's not what you intend to do. And that's why we need to have additional dialogue to attempt to address those issues that you want to address, Senator Taylor.
So when we went through this previously, and I thought we'd come to some consensus, maybe just giving immunity was not the way to solve the issue. I think I alluded to, is that an instance of one side or the other using it as forum shopping? I understand a bit about if the insurance companies would prefer to put you in federal court, because of speedy trial provisions for people who have the criminal issues there. It's a real problem. I even jokingly said, well, why don't we give the criminals immunity if you want to let them speed up the docket? But I thought we were backing away from that. But in your mind, this substitute is going in the other direction, giving more immunity.
Well, by the very language contained in the bill, the last time it was just the adjuster that was given immunity. This time it's any representative of the insurance carrier, which would extend to everyone, an independent agent, whomever.
So just to address some of the legitimate concerns that you are saying they are raising, and Senator Taylor's raising, just succinctly, what would your solution be to solve those legitimate problems that they are raising?
We have been working on some language that would try to grant the relief that Senator Taylor is seeking, and he has been kind enough to be receptive to discussions in that regard. And because of the far-reaching nature of this, I would really request that those discussions continue and that we be given an opportunity, because we do represent individuals who have no representation. They don't have any lobby here. We're it, for better or for worse. And we want to be a part of that dialogue so that we can at least give you a perspective to consider. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I've said